good, everybody? Welcome to the Nerd Side episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to find me at Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. What's up, y'all? Hope y'all having a great week. We are in November. Yes, we only got 2 more months of 2021, and we are still in the pandemic. Oh my goodness. But hey, everybody, we're riding out and we're ending the year strong. All new guests planned, some great people. We're going to have fun. Hopefully some surprises along the way. But I need y'all to give a round of applause, thumbs up, likes, all that for my good friend, my good buddy, my spiritual gaming brother, Louis Livingston-Garcia. Woo! How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
All right, Louis, and real quick, just in case, for the people at home, in case they don't know, who are you and what do you do?
Oh man, so I started, I'm a journalist by trade. Started in newspaper business over a decade ago. Don't want to age myself too much. Did some video game writing as well. Used to be a contributor to Bitmob and helped them edit some stories and have freelance for Xbox Magazine. For everybody was laid off in the U.S. office, and the British office took over. So that was a long time ago as well. I've been a Game Informer intern as well. Um, Freelance for just a lot of places actually, and nowadays though I'm freelancing more about kind of local community stuff, craft beer, which is kind of my big thing now. I'm working for a company called Crafted for All, which is actually on this glass. Not to plug that too much, but we work for trying to curtail inequity and injustice in the craft beverage world. So that's just something very near and dear to me is making the world more just and equitable. And yeah, just doing a lot of freelance editing and photographing and soccer, video games, and craft beer is kind of my main three things. So
Man, that was a pretty good elevator pitch. It was just
I
like,
I'm
I'm the
trying.
simple man. Craft beer, soccer, video games. What more can you ask of a person?
Oh yeah, and big wildlife photographer too. I mean, I went to Alaska for 3 weeks recently, and my wife and I flew to remote Katmai to photograph brown bears and photograph some Kodiak bears in Kodiak, where I used to. That was the first place I worked at the newspaper, and I love photographing bears as much as I love photographing the crows in the backyard. I was actually waiting for like 20 minutes before this, trying to get some crows to get closer to me to photograph. So any animal really. So
Yeah,
it's
I
it's
saw
I
that on
love it.
Twitter with the whole safari is not the right word, but expedition of photographing the bears, and I was like, oh man, like you had the ones like fighting and whatnot. I was like, this is wild.
We literally camped in bear country where there's an electric fence where even the ranger was like, the fence will deter the bears. So they're like, no food, nothing you would put in your mouth because the bears will just come right through and say hi. And I'm like, this is kind of terrifying. But yeah, we were about 20 feet away from some of the bears, a mom and a cub, and we got really close, and it was just really fantastic. And yeah, love that stuff. So.
Well, I know we're here to talk about video games, but I have to ask: are they people friendly? Are they used to seeing people up there, or they're just like whatever? They You don't bother us, we don't bother you.
Yeah, so it's kind of it depends. So we saw some black bears in Valdez, and like black bears we get in northern Wisconsin, and kind of where I'm at now. I'm kind of in the Madison area, and they're really skittish. You can, if you see them, you can kind of yell at them, and they'll run off. You'll see videos of people's cats and small dogs chasing them off. Um, Brown bears though, they're pretty used to. They have a lot of food, so they even tolerate each other. They'll be like really close to each other, and they'll fight a little bit, but there's videos too of where I was, where people literally, you get off the trail, the bear's like 6 feet in front of you, it walks across, it leaves you alone, you leave it alone, everything's fine. They've never had an incident there. And then in Kodiak, I tell my wife to kind of back up because we were on an overpass bridge, and this bear with 3 cubs kind of wasn't interested in the salmon anymore and was kind of coming towards us, which we were uphill, but we were really far away from the van, and the bear's way faster. So there hasn't been a death and Kodiak, I think, in 70 some years. I think we were fine, but also like it's an 800-pound bear, you need to be careful. So yeah, so they're pretty okay with people, as long as you're not silly about it. So yeah, of course
Good
you have
to
to worry about more.
good
So
to know. Good to know. Well, there are people you got educated about bears. And now that we're done with that, we got some great topics for you today. We're going to be talking about the best unexpected games of 2021. And you're like, Odell, but there's still 2 more months. Man, people, we got Halo, we got some Pokemon stuff, we got the usual suspects. If an unexpected game drops between now and December 31st, I am sorry. I don't see that happening. If it does, my head will spin, but you got to forgive me. But before that, we're going to be talking about the metaverse and Facebook and how does that pertain to video games. It's really crazy, people. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. We live in dark times. I'm not saying like evil or something. I'm just saying when history looks back between the period of 2020 up until 2025, 3, I don't know whenever these crazy cuckoo times will end, but we are living through history and it's going to be, I don't know. I'm here for it though. But before that, the story is kind of old by this point, but I have yet to talk about it because so much was happening. But the N64 is on the Switch. What we've all wanted. It's finally here. The world's excited. You know, the easiest win for Nintendo. The easiest, even with their slightly overpriced online, which I'm okay with because it's $50 compared to the 60, $70 you got to pay, Microsoft and PlayStation. It's okay, people. We were paying 20. We'll live. But Louis, they somehow messed up emulation of their own titles on their own hardware. They somehow found a way for it to run horribly. And when I mean horribly, as in it ran better on the 64. How? Louis, how did we get here?
man, that's I think that's the most disappointing thing because I mean, right, the price I wasn't, it was not a big deal. It's what, $60 a year for PlayStation 4. I was like, $20 to play Monster Hunter Rise Online and I get these extra games. It's a great deal. Like $50, no brainer. But I've got my stack of N64 games hanging there, and it's like I'll bust them out and play them on my TV downstairs. But to be able to sit in my bed and play N64 on the Switch, that would have been that's the dream right there. That's a selling point, I think. And screw it up that bad. Yeah, man, I don't know if it's just like they don't care, because people are gonna pay what they're gonna pay. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the easiest thing to say. Like I remember when they showed the N64 controller, I'm like, oh, easy. Like it sold out, so I still don't have one. But the second they're back in stock, I'm like, easy. I could literally be like groceries for the week or this 64 controller, duh. But
Yeah.
okay, so I guess I always boggle Nintendo, us community collectively as a gaming community, that they don't do these easy simple things that'll make them money, and then they finally do it. And I'm the type of person, I'm not big on game piracy, and that's kind of a catch-22 statement because I'll pirate movies, I'll pirate programs, I'll pirate TV shows, but I won't pirate games. Why is that my stance? I don't know. I just feel like games is such a different medium where like I just want to experience it on the hardware, with the way that it was quote unquote meant to experience. But this was the experience where I'm like, Nintendo, this is why people pirate your games. This right here, you messed up your own emulation. I'm like, how? And of course I'm sure they're gonna fix it, right? Obviously. There's someone at HQ either in Seattle or Kyoto that's like, working extreme overtime hours to make this right. But you just gotta wonder, did they literally just go like, hey, someone flip the switch and call it a day? Was there no UI testing, no testing whatsoever? Because I mean, all the Nintendo and Super Nintendo games work fine.
Mm. I was reading, I think, something earlier, just to make sure I was totally up to date on what was going on about, I think the emulation was different with GameCube and Wii, and I remember that working pretty well, but it's also been years. And I guess they changed the way they were emulating with the Wii U, and that might be similar to what they're doing with the Switch. But yeah, it just seems a company of the resources and the know-how and the knowledge that shouldn't have even been an issue. And I'm like you, where I like playing games how they're meant. So that's why I have a TV downstairs with the PS2 hooked up to it. My N64 is down there. Um, Skyward Sword came out. I literally replayed it on Wii with like the special edition gold nunchuck because I was like, this is the way I want to play it, even though that game was kind of baffling with the motion controls were not good. I struggled with the same boss I remembered from years ago. I was like, I wonder if I'll figure it out this time. And I was just like, literally, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Like, it was terrible. But it's just really, really disappointing. But maybe they'll be fixed. Maybe Nintendo usually is someone you put a lot of hope in for that kind of stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, so but this also brings up. So we're gonna get into conspiracy time, and I want you to come down this road with me. So this is my conspiracy to why it didn't work, because they're still coming out with the Super Nintendo Switch, and they optimized this for the Super Nintendo Switch, and for whatever reason decided to release the OLED, and then as the halfway step, I don't know, whatever. We're not here for the OLED. And no one forgot to check if it still worked on base model Switch. That's my theory, because it's literally asinine that this doesn't work, especially since you already have Mario 64 run on the Switch earlier. Yes, I know it's on a cartridge, but like it's still literally the base game from the 64. So I'm like, it don't add up so much to where I'm also like, how many times have they remade and re-emulated and resold Ocarina of Time? Countless,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
Or this is just a stress test for GoldenEye. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that.
that would be. Did they say if they're going to add? I know they add online multiplayer for some of these. Are they going to do online multiplayer with GoldenEye? Or are we too far
We're too
for
far
that?
ahead, but considering it's Nintendo, I'm just gonna assume no, because they hate everything online. Except Mario Party. They got Mario Party right. The new Mario Party is amazing. Everything works. I haven't played with anyone super far yet. I've been within the city limits, so. But I mean that's cool. So I don't know. At this point, I feel like we have to stop defending Nintendo. It's just like, Nintendo, bro, get your stuff together. Just take some time off, go see the therapist, work it out. I don't know. Let's blame Doug Bowser. Doug, ever since you took over, things ain't been going so well. Might need to call Reggie. This wouldn't happen under his leadership. I mean, I don't know who's to blame actually for this. I assume it's a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, I think to the greater point, I do find the outrage to be a little much, especially with the price. And Monster Hunter Rise for $20 a year. I mean, I would have paid $60 a year just to play that game. So these are like bonuses to me. But at the N64, I was pretty excited to just have those, and now I'm just like, I don't know if I'll even bother with them or just boot up the N64 Ocarina of Time again when it's time. I mean, I used to replay all the old Zeldas every year on Christmas break in college, so it kind of, I have everything from back then. So until, knock on wood, the N64 falls apart, but
It's a sturdy
see.
system. I don't have a tube TV anymore, but I bought modern connections. I went to there's a game shop in town that I go to, and they have like where you could buy like the RCV, RVC, wherever the red, yellow, white cables are, and have a little. It makes it connect to a modern TV, so it plugs into the 64, but it has the ends that correspond with most HD TVs. And I must say, it doesn't look too bad. Like, everything was pretty playable. I'm sure there's some upscaling in the cables, but everything looks surprisingly good. And I'm talking about on a 50-inch TV. Like, you do need to sit a good distance away. So I had to buy an extender cable for my 64 controller because those things are like 3 feet long. But, I will say I played Mario Kart, GoldenEye, Mario 64, and I believe a Mario Party. I might be lying on that. Don't quote me on that. but in all those games are passable. You know, you might have to turn up and down your brightness settings, but I say go for it.
Yeah, I've seen some wires that are pretty cheap on Amazon for, I mean, Dreamcast, N64, that plug-in, and supposedly work pretty well on the, HD TVs and have pretty good reviews. And I know there's some more pricey devices. I think we're talking like $100, $200 where they do even better. I don't know if it's upscaling or what they're doing, but you can even kind of adjust the settings where at that point I'm like, I don't know how much I want to get into TV adjustment. I don't really know what's going on, to make a N64 game look good on an HD TV. But there are some options out there. I just haven't tried any yet. I'm gonna have to once the tube TV breaks. I have two of them, and one's just kind of in storage until this one goes. This one's from college, so that's 2009. I had it was when I graduated, so it's quite old.
I was the cool kid on the block. My tube TV in college had, the combo VCR DVD player, built into it. So, I thought I was like the hot stuff. Couldn't tell me anything. It's like DVD, VHS, good to go. And that crazy thing called Blu-ray, I got a PS3, unstoppable.
Oh man, yeah.
Not to date myself either, but it boggles my mind. I remember when Blu-ray was just like the format to end all formats, and I literally remember not understanding it. It'll be like, so you're telling me I could buy a $30 DVD or the $80 Blu-ray of the same movie, but nothing. But here's the thing about Blu-ray: nothing supported Blu-ray. Like I swear, if you didn't have a PS3, I'm like, what did people play Blu-rays on? I wasn't buying a $500 Blu-ray player. I don't think anyone was, for that matter.
I remember that being a big selling point. Like you could buy a really expensive Blu-ray player, or you can buy a PS3. And I had a PS3. I remember some wild. Yeah, I made this up, but I swear there was a marketing thing about rubbing steel wool on a Blu-ray disc, and like it didn't scratch as much as like a DVD or a CD-ROM. And I just remember it just being just hyped up like this sci-fi technology to end everything. It was super weird.
I remember, so I had some Blu-rays, because eventually I guess Blu-rays weren't selling enough, so they started doing the DVD Blu-ray combo where you just got it all in one. And so I remember putting the Blu-ray in for the first time and being like, I don't really, I'm not getting the experience I thought I should get. And then I found out like after some Googling that like my TV didn't support Blu-ray quality. And I was like, well, what's the point? What TVs do? And it was like, what will be the equivalent of buying an 8K TV then? And I was just like, this Blu-ray just sounds like a bad investment. You need a super player. You need the most advanced, bestest TV ever. I was like, ugh.
Stuff wasn't affordable back then either. I mean, my mom got a 26 or 28-inch TV, which is actually my second monitor right now, and it was like $1,000 back then. So she could do
Ooh.
Blu-ray or something. It's like a Samsung, so it was like a really good one. It's still really good, but it's like still have an Emerson I bought used from a buddy in Alaska for $50 that has paint on the bottom of it when he was painting his, and it's like it's such a bad TV that the PS2 almost looks good on it because it can't really make anything sharp enough, but like it's still a little fuzzy. But yeah, just I don't know, spending that money, especially back then as a kid. It's like I bought the PS3. It's like but I can't afford anything else now.
Yeah, man. I guess the new age thing is that HDR and true HDR, which I think is hilarious because I felt like I've been gaming in HDR for maybe the past 3 years, and now the PS5 and the Xbox Series X comes out, and then like TVs and monitors get better. It's like okay, no, that wasn't actually HDR. That was like just better. Now this is true HDR. Would you like to turn that on? I'm just like, y'all just making words up now. I don't know.
Um,
I don't know. But I will say I bought Cyberpunk 2077. I know. I actually enjoyed the game. What
yeah, I had a friend who did too, and I was like, "What about all the bugs?" He's like, "Well, they weren't that bad, but he had like so many bugs, and he just like was okay with it."
I was in that camp too. The game before all the patches because I got it within like the release week, the game would crash like once every hour, like clockwork. But usually the game auto saved regularly enough to where it wasn't a huge issue. It's still an issue, yes, but let me like this: the game is good enough to where I swear if like those bugs didn't exist, it would have been game of the year easily. But so I finally got a fancy computer monitor. Just one, not two, to replace one of my monitors because I was like, I'm finally gonna start gaming at my computer desk. I moved my game systems there, just because I got to the point where like we got like a 65-inch in the living room, and I remember playing Cyberpunk and being like, the screen's just too big. There's too much information I'm trying to process. That's like I'm going cross-eyed. So I have a slightly too big PC monitor. I think it's like 27, 28 inches, which is kind of absurd for a computer monitor. But it's got all the bells and whistles and whatnot, and it was on sale at Best Buy, so sure. And then I finally turned on like true HDR, 60 frames, all that nonsense. And I must admit, I was blown away. I was like, my God, here it is. Here it is. I finally get it. Whew.
Pretty amazing. We got a newer TV, but I actually, the thing I enjoyed the most was playing FIFA on it because it's either I have to sit so close or I had to make the guys really big so I could tell where the ball was. Because like my eyes are getting so bad, so I was like, I can actually play this game. I can see what's going on online and not just be terrible because I could never see where the ball was, or I had it in my my office and I'm literally like 3 feet away from the TV, trying to see where everything is happening. But it has, I think it's 4K and has some of those things too, and it is some of the games I've played on there just on PS4 and different things. Obviously not 4K, but pretty amazing to just see. Same thing when I had my surround sound headset for the first time. It's like one of those moments where I was like, oh, I never heard that sound before in this game, like this crackling of thunder or like the wind blowing the grass. So sometimes when it works, it's pretty amazing, pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't. I know we're entering the 8K realm and stuff, but I can't wait till we get to it where it's just like every monitor TV just does it because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who had to learn how to turn on the HDR settings. That's another reason why I went to computer monitor, because like TVs don't tell you have to turn on like 80 different settings to actually get all that stuff to work. It doesn't just work out the box, which just blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's like not user friendly where I game on PC, but I have a buddy who helps me build one because I'm just so terrible with technology. And I had to research TVs for like months until I was like, okay, I think this is a good one for gaming. And then my buddy bought a TV, and I was like, so it has to have like really good black colors because that's like a whole thing, like the depth of it. Otherwise, it looks weird, and it has to have this, and like this is the speed, which like I knew from years ago. But like now there's all these new things, and like this means this for this company, and this means this for this one, but it's the same thing, and it's just like, wow, this is overwhelming.
Oh man, exactly. And speaking of overwhelming, if you haven't heard, Mark Zuckerberg has announced that Facebook is moving into the metaverse, the meta, words, acronyms, future. But no, so you probably wonder what's that to do with gaming. So what Facebook is hoping to become, I don't know if Facebook, like we don't have a choice or just a branch, it's going to be this metaverse thing, which is going to be a virtual augmented reality where, you create avatars and you interact with people in these vast worlds. And, so it's like a community, and you could get together and do quests. And if you're starting to be like, hey, this sounds like every MMO ever, or every server ever, or every, well, what was it back in the day where you had like your living spaces and like, oh man, you remember back in the day, Lewis, right? You had like, these were the precursors to like, God, I can't remember this name of a single one, but they were really big in the early 2000s where it's like, sign on to My Life, or, Squirrel Buddies. Think of Club Penguin, but with like, real people avatars. There was like a dime a dozen back in the early 2000s. If you lived there, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But so Facebook is essentially wanting to create quote unquote the first to create a virtual augmented living reality where people interact was just basically what gamers have been doing since the dawn of time. And with that, it's interesting because if it goes the way I guess they're envisioning it, Facebook is just basically going to become an augmented reality playhouse where people yell at each other their political opinions with avatars.
At this point, I'm just so sick of Facebook and just reading about this. It's just like, already stuff like this. There's better things like this. I mean, I don't think Zuckerberg is clued in on what people want in the gaming space. I know Facebook's trying to move in on all avenues of entertainment and things, and it's just such a turnoff, especially after the dissolution of our political system and the radicalizing of your neighbors because of Facebook, where it's just like, do we really need a 3D space now? Like for, all those things that you just said to happen. And I don't know. And it's just another way to probably deliver ads to us and money. And yeah, the whole thing just, I have no faith in Facebook for anything, to be honest. So
Yeah, so during this thing, he cited reference Roblox a lot, which in case you don't know, if you don't know what Roblox is, you don't have a child under 6 anywhere near you, or or you've just been out of the loop for a while. But it's like it's basically everything he just said, but for kids. You can make little games and stuff like that. And I really feel like everyone at Facebook is like an old soul in a young body, because all these people should be more in tune to current technology. But I feel like this is one of those weird cases where, as much as gaming is the youngest kid on the block, everyone looks to him for guidance, because they're really trying to take like a turn what Roblox is, but into something that an older person could use, or even something like Fortnite, the cultural phenomenon that is that, a virtual space where you make a goofy character and do things. And I'm just like I'm all about combining ideas, but the merging of a gamer s collector fan base with what Facebook is just sounds like, one, just it will make me delete my account immediately. Let me get that out the way. But it just sounds like a huge recipe for disaster.
sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like if somebody was creating the Matrix but had no creative bone in their body. Just like, this is what it's gonna be, like, I don't know.
All right, so imagine this. So like, all right, so you have someone on like your friends with, okay, it's one of those weird, your friend is friend with someone on Facebook in this metaverse, right? So you can see their post, and they're posting something obscene. Just I won't make any political statement here, but just one of those generically bad ones that most people can agree is bad. And so I'm like, what can you go up and like physically beat them up in the virtual space? Like have your little avatar beat up their little avatar? Like, do you fight? Like, how far are we gonna take this? Can you imagine the new lawsuits where like I suffered like psychological abuse because this guy kicked the crap out of my virtual avatar for sharing my opinions and views? I mean, that sounds awesome in a way. Like, I would kind of love to see that happen just for the entertainment value of it.
It'd be fun to see that like BuzzFeed top 10 list of like those incidents, if somebody could record them and write about them, but um I don't know.
And it's just so out of curiosity, let's say they do this and they even take it one step. They do the thing where they pair it with Oculus and you can like walk around in this VR Facebook space. Like, is that where we're headed? Are we going towards the Ready Player One future?
That would be interesting. I really do like a lot of the VR, games and concepts and things. I just don't know. I definitely don't want to use it for that. And I don't know, the older I get, the more, I mean, our parents are obsessed with Facebook, right? Like it's an older
Yeah.
demographic, and it's like the older I am, the more I'm like, I'll post mostly to other platforms. Facebook gets a couple things here and there, like here's some bear photos, but it's like, if I'm gonna do VR, like I don't want to be plugged into Facebook or like this, I want to go play the
Yeah,
Batman game
yeah.
or Resident Evil
Say it. The
4.
metaverse.
Yeah, the Metaverse. I don't want to be in the Metaverse. Like, I don't want to be jacked into that. So,
It's crazy that we've reached this point in, I don't know. I want to say technological advancement, but I just guess society where this is a legit plausible thing. And ironic, not ironic, led by what many would consider an evil company currently.
yeah. And when you think about technology in general, and it's like, it always starts as like, this is a cool thing or a happy thing. And then always like really turns sour real fast with like other companies or the government or, like, hey, we can do like facial recognition. It's like, hey, now we're gonna have like a log to where we know everyone's faces, and we have, it's just like, I don't know where this is gonna go. Maybe I watch too much bad sci-fi. I rewatch all the Matrix movies and Animatrix, and I rewatch 12 Monkeys, the old film, and then the French film it's based on. I'm like, man, technology's bad. Like this is everything just gets bad.
I mean, no, that's fair. I mean, because we when we watched those movies back in the day, we joke about it and we joke about it again. But I mean, we're more or less here. I mean, this is it. We, I mean, we're not literally quote unquote jacking in, but if the metaverse happens, it doesn't seem far fetched. It goes from like I look at it like how at some point, right? Like the idea of landing on the moon was like just nonsensical. Like you're a crazy person. Go to the loon house or whatever they called it back in the day. But now we're at a point in human society where if someone said, we'll colonize Mars, no one's gonna look at you like crazy. People will think, well, the most cynical response you'll get will be is like, not in my lifetime. Which is saying like I fully believe we'll get there. I just don't think it will be within my lifetime. Like maybe like we're 100 years out or something like that. And so it's interesting to see how our mind shifted as a society, where it goes from there's no way in hell to yeah maybe to oh yeah it's definitely gonna happen. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Right. What's next after that? Like, does this become a gimmick, or even comparing it to being plugged in? It's like people are already plugged in, so to speak, online. So it's like, are people just going to be on their VR headsets, like sucking all this negative social media usage in as well? And it's like, it's very comparable to just living in a fantasy land instead of seeing the world as it is, and how people don't scream at each other that often about things as they do on Facebook, and it's harmful, like to your
Yeah.
brain. So
So I wonder if it's so obviously this is aimed at older people like you're saying, because anyone who is younger, I feel like we already have that where it's Roblox, Fortnite, even Final Fantasy 14, any MMO really. You think so I'm saying like how I just wonder what their goal is here, because in a way, if you think of it, if you can't get young people because they're already plugged into their own video game metaverse, if you will, what does Facebook become? Like, does it cease being Facebook and just become like, does it become the server for old people to run their hate raids?
yeah, and it's weird because it's like I worked at a community college doing social media and events and stuff in my late 20s, and I thought I was still cool and knew what kids were into. They were all doing Instagram. We didn't even have Instagram, and now my nephews and people are on TikTok, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing TikTok. Like, I just am too old for it. And so it's like, it seems like, is this going to be something that attracts younger people? Because that's what you have to do. I don't know if it will. They're so into other things. Um, every time I mean, Pokemon cards is like the only thing I connect with my nephew that's like going strong. And I'm like, yeah, look at my set, but I look at his and I'm like, why does everyone have all these hit points and attack power? And it's like totally different now, where it's like you definitely couldn't play my decks against his decks. Like, besides that, he's showing me things on his Kindle or whatever, where I'm like, I've never heard of these things, like Roblox, as well. It's like never heard about that until my nephew was like, yeah, I'm doing that, and I've never actually played Fortnite either. It's like that's like bad, probably as like a game, gamer and whatever. But I played the Apex game and Fortnite. I just never got into, but they're always showing me the dances, and my one nephew's obsessed, and I'm like, I'll play Halo 3 or something like that, or Battlefront 2, or, I miss GoldenEye. So maybe I'm like in my old age too. It's like I avoid these things, and like I don't even know what's trendy. I don't see Facebook turning this into or Metaverse being the trend or the thing. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the killer app would be or like what the appeal would be. Kids are just so the kids are all right, as they say, and they're like in way cooler things and like doing other cool stuff. And I mean, I talk to my nephews and I'm like, man, I think I was dumb when I was your age. I don't remember doing these things. Like, you're into so many cool things and, doing this and that and showing me these games that I've never even heard of. And, yeah, anyway, that's just my ramble. Maybe that's my old man ramble, but I don't know.
I'm starting to think maybe Facebook is just running its course. If you look at how long a social media stays active, with I will say Twitter being an exception in the sense that Twitter is Twitter Twitter Twitter's a weird mix of professional and just nonsensical echo chambers.
Yeah.
But like I feel like the way Twitter is designed, it's something that I can see lasting. But if you think of like MySpace, Zanga, and hell, even Instagram to a certain degree, all these things eventually just go the way of the dodo, and they don't last that long. And Facebook, to its credit, has lasted the longest. But I think its time is ending up because I mean they sold their soul in a way, to the ad companies and stuff like that. And I'm not here to argue the morality of it. People are gonna make their money at the end of the day. But it's just.
It's, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. What were you gonna say?
Just thinking, with the government inquest too about election stuff. It's like, is Facebook or Metaverse one bad step away from making the wrong politician mad, and then like regulation happens, and then the company dissipates? It's a weird spot to be in, to be that influential, and um, that's a precarious situation. Twitter though, that's funny, the echo chamber thing. It's like we have a thing called beer Twitter, and beer Twitter is just like the same yelling and just like video game journalists. Like it's just communities are very funny. But yeah, Twitter's so simple. I don't know. I just think that Rage Machine is gonna last forever. So
You know what? What's the true social media that's gonna outlast everything? It's you would consider it a social media, but it really is, and it's kind of just on the forefront of everything. Reddit. And one could argue once again that is something that was hugely just a gamer focus. Game stuff's just leading the world, man. Where gaming goes, the world follows. But yeah,
I
like
mean, that's not untrue. You see how many gaming-led communities and technology there is, and it's just kind of wild how that demographic or that group, it kind of just like leads the charge with using certain things for communication or fandom. And yeah, and I need to get off Reddit though. I never used Reddit for years, just like off and on, and now I'm just like my cute kitten thing. I have like a video game meme thing. Like I just all these funny pages, and I'll spend like an hour or two at night. I'm supposed to be sleeping, just like going through all this stuff, and it's like Reddit works for me. And like it's one of those things where it's like you read the comments because they're hilarious, and yeah, I just love that place.
yeah, I think it's one of the few places where people still go to have fun, and in a sense that everything is so niche that whenever you decide to be part of any subreddit, it's usually something you're gonna like, and usually people that like it in the same way. And I mean, yeah, there's the dark corners of Reddit and people being an ass and everything, but like you said, like it's usually just fun, good times. Like I go to my Pokemon Reddit and it's like just stuff about Pokemon, and then even more niche stuff about Pokemon, and then like my Reddit is like 90% video games and then 10% like quote unquote world news. And then it's just but yeah, it's one of those weird things. You know, Reddit's kind of like Wikipedia in a sense. It's like it's self regulated, but like almost a source of just information that you want, and presented in a way that makes it easy to find.
And it's kind of wild too, or you'll see a thread on something completely random, and some top comment or somebody will be like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this?" And they'll go down like this rabbit hole of other things that have no bearing on the post, but is super interesting. And I'm like, "Well, now I need to Google that," And it's just you never know what you're gonna get in the comments sometimes. So, but yeah, they're usually really funny. I mean, sometimes people try to be too funny, try too hard to be funny, but I love going there. It always makes me laugh. So.
Yeah, good times, good times. So for all you veterans out there, you know, baby boomers and such that may listen to the show, thank you for listening. I don't know what brought you here, but welcome. You know, check out Reddit. You know, get off Facebook and get on Reddit and leave that metaverse stuff alone. It's scary. No, it's like real life scary, not like that fake scary. But so as I said at the top of the show, this year has been full of surprises, and we're going to talk about the actual good ones because, you know, 2020, 2021 has been full of a lot of the bad kind, but these are the good kinds, especially in gaming. So, Louis, I don't know about you, but I can't think of any previous year in recent memory where so many good unexpected games come out. What I mean by that, games that were announced literally the day of, day before, or a month within release, or just shadow dropped and it was just like turn out to be amazing games, or even games. You know, the most recently example of this is Guardians of the Galaxy, where everyone assumed this game was going to be hot garbage. It ends up, I guess, being one of the greatest games of the year.
I'm so sad about that. I was asking people on Twitter, can I play this on PS4? And you'll know Kyle Hilliard from previously of Game Informer was like, it's so buggy on my PS5, I wouldn't get in on the PS4 because like I love the Guardians movies, I love the comics, and but yeah, just to hear people say dialogue and the story is more impactful than the films, which are pretty well done, is pretty shocking. Because I think it almost seemed like it would be more in the vein of Wolverine on Xbox 360 or even the Captain America kind of the license things that were pretty good or true to the character, had some neat things, maybe weren't game of the year or contenders, and this one legitimately sounds like it is. um,
Yeah, it does, and I don't honestly know what to say about that because I find it weird. Like, you know, you think of something like so you have exceptions to the rule like Spider-Man and Batman games. You know, people put attention to detail to, and we all just kind of we're at the spot where we assume they're gonna be good, and we're like, yeah, that's gonna be good. But you have things like Guardians of the Galaxy and other just games that aren't there that you just assume are just cash grabs, and I find it interesting that like it's not. And I guess the Avengers had excuse me, Guardians of the Galaxy had the Avengers going against it, which was a commercial flop in every sense of the word. I didn't
yeah.
play it because I'm gonna say a controversial statement, which needs to stop being controversial. I'm not a fan of the Destiny gameplay formula. I'm just not.
That is something I totally agree with. I tried so hard to get into Destiny and play with friends, and I think I only did just so I could catch up with a buddy in Germany, and it just never clicked for me. It just, I just could not. I had a buddy who tried to get me into the Avengers, and I just refused. I don't know, it just didn't seem like something that would work for me.
Oof. Yeah, it's just I don't know, but I'm not here to rag on that. But we had other things. Metroid Dread been another huge success story where Nintendo's basically like, hey, Metroid Dread's coming out, and it comes out like a month from now. Have fun.
Oh, by the way, you've all been wanting this. It's only been 19 years since Fusion came out. It's like, yeah, maybe you'll be interested. It's like, wow, that did not expect that, and I think I've only put 3 hours in, and it has some quirks to it that I are just kind of weird, and I have to grow into them, and it's early, but like I love it. I love just love seeing Samus in a solo game that's just like the old Metroidvanias.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Mm, okay. So one of my funny ones, It Takes Two, the co-op game that everyone
Oh
was
my
raving.
gosh.
Everyone
Did
was
you like it?
Oh no, I loved it. It was amazing. But
Yeah, that
from his presentation, I didn't really. Okay, I thought it was gonna be it was gonna be a quote unquote fun co-op experience, nothing more, nothing less. You go home, and I remember I remember hearing some buzz about it, and then right before it released, it got like huge buzz, and people were like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be amazing," and I was like, "Yawn, no, thank you." Divorce story, okay, and then it's one of those games where it's just like really good. It's unexpected. I don't care. I'm gonna stick to my guns. It is unexpectedly really good. I feel like even the people who thought that game was gonna be good had no idea to know it was gonna be that good.
yeah, and this is I got a little short list here of games, and that was top on my list because I had played Haze Lights. That's a developer. Haze Lights. Prison Break one. Is it? It takes. What was? I think I wrote it down. A Way Out. Did you ever play? I don't know if you played that, but it's same thing. Co-op. I played it with a buddy. It feels low budget. It has a couple glitches. It's not like game that's gonna change the world with co-op or anything, but it was an enjoyable game. So, when this next game was announced, I was like, I liked that guy, that Joseph Ferris or Ferris guy's, first game. I like Hazelight, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It still lacks a little bit of polish. The camera is, oh man, sometimes I get a little sick, just it kind of is everywhere. And I joked with my wife because I played it with my wife, or because we play some different co-op games. The Super Mario 3D World's her favorite with Cat Mario, Cat Toad, all that stuff. We love cats. Um, at first I joked with her. I was like, some people said online like this will make you want a divorce because it's so frustrating if you don't work together. And then right away she was frustrated because she hated the camera and just like did not like the game. And I was like, uh-oh. But then the creativity of it and just bouncing between kind of genres and different themes and motifs and whatnot really I think sold her on it and sold me on it. So I totally agree with you. Based on the strength of A Way Out, I thought it would have been like a maybe solid 7 out of 10 game if you're going to use a number for people to reference. But I didn't think it would be this good. I really enjoyed that game. It's probably one of my favorite games of the year.
Yeah, you know, I don't think. Okay, it's probably gonna be on some game of the year list. I don't think it should win, but it probably will win. I mean, it probably will win some game of the year for some people. And before I was like, that's absurd, but now I'm like, that's okay. That
Yeah.
that's okay. And
And it's funny because it's like you think about things objectively, and it's like, yeah, it probably shouldn't be a game of the year, and, considering all the games we've had, and like for my personal game of the year is like I'm like kind of like with a beer, it's like your best beer is the one you have with your friends is kind of the saying, or like at your wedding or like a good moment. And I was like, I played that with my wife, and it's like one of the first games we got to play since that Mario game that she's obsessed with. Like we got it for Switch again and replayed it like in a week. Like she loves it, but yeah, so anyway, it's just those personal little moments with it. Yeah, sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
Oh no, man, no, you're good. You're good. One of the other games that really caught me off guard was the Forgotten City because I swear I didn't hear anything about this game till after its release. I If there was like people were just like, oh man, time loops and stuff, but the Forgotten City, oh, gotta play it. And I heard about this game for maybe about 2 months before I finally looked it up because I thought people were talking about like some old game that it's one of those games that like it's been on Steam for like maybe like 2 years, but people are just not playing it. I thought it was one of those situations. And I'm like, this game came out this year, really,
Mm.
really?
I think I
Okay.
saw Andrew Reiner post about that, and I think it even looked a little bit older. Where I was like, "What is this? Like, how did I miss this?" And I kind of had the same epiphany. I was like, "Wow, this is a brand new game, and it sounds amazing."
Oh yeah, it's I haven't beat it, but I played it and I was just like, oh, this is cool. And I don't know, it was cool. And one of the games, so it's coming to PlayStation and Switch, which means everyone's gonna play it. But Death's Door, that's another one that was just it. I always think it's funny when I hear terms like Zelda like or just like or Metroid style. I'm just like, it's funny. Just a side tangent, how Nintendo games are so good that that other games that are maybe not even in their genre have to be compared to them by like a made up genre that is like because you think about, no one says it anymore, but how many Mario like games came out between the 90s and mid 2000s?
And it, man, so my weird crow thing, I told you I was trying to photograph crows and I was photographing them like crazy in Alaska, but I was sold on that game after I heard a friend talk about it, and he's like, crows, and you do the souls, you carry the souls, blah blah blah, and it's like that's like what crows do. I mean, in myth, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Japanese myth, Alutiiq native myth, and Kodiak. My family, my dad's side's Mexican natives actually, and I'm like, I know all the Mexican myths too, and I was like, that's exactly what they do, and I'm like, I don't believe it, but like I'm totally all into the myth, and
Mm-hmm.
so that game, I haven't played a lot of it. I actually played maybe an hour or two. Absolutely loved it, but you get busy with other things, and but the aesthetic, the music, there's the weird little humor, and just the fact that it's a bunch of crows. I'm totally on board for that. You put crows in a game. I hate to say it, and I love it. So that's all I
Hey,
need.
hey, man, I mean, you put Pokemon in the game, and I'm halfway there.
Yeah,
So who am I to judge? Did you have any other
right.
games on your short list that really stood out this year that was basically just out the woodworks?
Well, probably, I don't know if they were for other people, but for me, um, so Unsighted, that everyone's been talking about lately, the Metroidvania was made in Brazil by two developers. I had not heard much. I think came out in September. Not heard much about it until recently, and a lot of the talk had been that it was two developers and that they were trans developers, and just more visibility for that community, and different things like that. And so like Otaku had written a piece about that, and it's played, I think I'm probably about halfway through. I just started, and it just feels so good. It feels like almost like a Super Nintendo game from yesteryear, with a little bit of modern things going on with like the cinematic appeal of it, or just like the cutscenes and stuff you'd expect nowadays. But I really like that game. I had not heard much about it even at release until just recently, when people have been talking about it more on Twitter, and the Kotaku piece, which I don't read them very often. I don't even know how I saw that, but just thought that. I mean, for having Metroid Dread and both of those I've been playing kind of back to back now, it's like just I'm a big Metroidvania fan. I wrote a piece for Playboy about Metroidvanias. I love Symphony of Night's one of my favorite games. I replay that game once a year. The spiritual successor, the I'm forgetting the name now, like Ritual or Blood, whatever Iga did. I played the heck out of that. Every time there's an update, I play it. I love those games, and this one is definitely in that vein. It's amazing. Like I love every second of it so far.
Man, you know, it's I guess this could I feel like every year it's the best year in gaming, but I truly feel like this is one of the best years in gaming because we get like the big AAA releases every year, like Halo Infinite's coming out and stuff, and it's kind of it's cool to have our benchmarks that that we're looking forward to. But like I said, I feel like, to me personally, this is truly a non-cliche best year in gaming, because even without those, like, if you remove the every game that we knew that was going to be like quote unquote the big hit of this year, and you took it out of the equation, like they just got delayed until 2022, which I know some of them did, so that's not entirely a false statement. Like, this year still would have been fine.
Mm.
And I don't know how many years in gaming you could say that you took out the majority, if not all, of the AAA releases, and you still would have had a good year in gaming.
Mm. and even some of the big games have been surprised me about how much I guess I loved them. Like Resident Evil Village. I love Seven. Thought this would be great too. I was excited about the Resident Evil 4 kind of influence with more action. And I beat Resident Evil Village once, and I replayed it immediately a second time, and I got halfway through a third playthrough. Like that's unheard of for me. I loved it. Bowser's Fury was really fun. Even Monster Hunter Rise, like every time Monster Hunter comes out, I've been playing since the very first one with the same group of people. Just now, one's in Germany and one's in Arizona, and it was cool to see people finally pick up on that game with World. Like Rise was more of a Monster Hunter 1 on PS2 and Monster Hunter Tri kind of vibe. Kind of miss my pickaxes breaking, which people would call me, you know, silly for that. But I like that old school melding of, the old and world together and Rise. And so it's like you have all these unexpected games, and then even some of the big games you expect to be good, or even the series you played for 20 years or almost 15 20 years is still able to just wrap you up and get you online. And yeah, it's been a really fun year. And I'm always behind on games, but I couldn't put some of the new ones down.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So, and it's funny because I feel like, so I'm looking at Far Cry 6, and I'm not down in the Far Cry or anything, but like you look at games like that, and I feel like that came out to basically no fanfare. Like people played it and was like, it was Far Cry, yeah, yeah, you know, uh, South America, not
Was there
political.
like was there like a negative, I don't know, response to that? It seemed like on social media, like a lot of Game Informer writers and different people kind of like, I don't care. I liked Far Cry 6. Like it seemed like, I don't know, the gaming community was just like anti Far Cry 6. I have no idea why.
I think it was a not completely, but some people, because they took the whole "this game isn't political at all" stance, which I think is dumb. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, clearly, first of all, every Far Cry game I think is political, but I mean, these can be political without it being a problem. But I think Far Cry 6's actual problem was it was just more it was more Far Cry, but like in a bad sense. It's just like, yeah, it's same stuff, different day, except this time people kind of speak the Spanish. You
It's
know,
the problem with like that mold is really good. Oh, I think people hold up Far Cry 2 high esteem because it had a lot of complex systems. It was a little bit different than Beyond. They kind of hit that mode of, explore the map, you do this, you can do that. Like there's wild animals, which is really fun, like easy escapism. And especially with one of them added co-op online, and that's great. But yeah, it kind of gets to a point where it's like pretty cookie cutter, and then what you try to insert a story that's political or not political, or something weird to kind of make it get a reaction. Like, was it Far Cry 5 that had the conservative America?
yeah,
Yeah, so it's like even that one, I played that one, and it's like, it's the same game. It's just like, yeah, it's wacky. Like, I guess is, but
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I know we're kind of done with that, but just real quick hot take. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, crap, I forgot the name of it. Horizon Forbidden West. I think that I don't think that game's gonna be a flop, but I don't think it's gonna be the big commercial success they're hoping it to be. I don't. That's just my gut feeling on that one.
Yeah, I don't even know like wise how the first one did. I thought it was a good game. I thought it was great, but I feel like it's not a game where, it's not the next God of War. Like I want it, everybody wants it, it's that's gonna sell a ton. I'm hoping this one will sell pretty well because it's an interesting game world and system. And sorry, my cat Miyamoto, named after the
Oh, very
Miyamoto,
nice.
decided to join. So, but yeah, and I think I've kind of lost interest in Horizon as well because it feels like it's been a long time since the first one came out. I mean, same with God of War. Just so excited for that. I cannot wait. And hoping it runs on my PS4 because I really am holding out as much as I can to buy a new console. I don't know why. I just think maybe with the shortages, I'm like, I really don't want to. I deal with rare releases with beer where it's like I just missed out on a beer 2 days ago where you have literally 2 seconds or maybe like two full seconds, sometimes 15 seconds to like click fast enough and like fill out your credit card info to get like a rare beer that people are now selling on secondary markets for $400, and it was $100 beer to begin with, and it's like, this is so dumb. Like, why do so it's like the whole PS5 thing just has me exhausted. Like, I gotta watch out for Target or GameStop to release it, and oh my gosh, like I already do enough of that.
Oh man, I got you completely. Well, Lewis, I want to thank you for joining me this week. It was an awesome time, especially with my bear listen at the top of the hour. For everyone, really, we all learned a lot. So I applaud you for that. So where can the people, follow you, keep up with you, see what you're doing, all that good stuff?
So I am Louis Garcia 12 on Twitter, and I am on Instagram as well. He's trying to chew on my headset. Yeah, so Instagram and Twitter are my best places to find me. I'm quite chatty on Twitter. I like interacting with people and following them back. Instagram, you'll see a lot of bear photos, some video game stuff, and a lot of beer stuff too, since I write about it a lot. Get to do a lot of travel for that. Um, yeah, if you follow me, I'll follow you back, and I'll chat with you. I love chatting about games, and just hit me up.
All right. As always, people, you can follow the show at FC Podcast 23 on Twitter. Follow me at Harmon Jr. We do have a Patreon, Full Circle Productions, if you're into that. But remember, you can like, share, subscribe for free 99. So go ahead and do that. Leave a review. And until next week, everybody, as always, have a great week and be blessed. Peace.